Welcome, everybody, to episode 44 of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am your host, Jesse, and thank you for stopping by. Today, we jump into the story of the not very well-known Sean Gillis. Also today, returning, two of my favorite guests, we have Alex and JP. JP, 2 appearances in 3 episodes. What's up, dude? Okay, you guys, Sean Gillis, certified fuckface. Co-host Greg is here, as always, across the internet in his bunker far away. You guys know the rules. Sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 44 of the Serial Chillers podcast. All right, welcome everybody to episode 43 of 1 million of the Serial Chillers podcast from the Sight Unseen Studio. That's right, it has a name now. While you're at it, across the internet in a bunker from unknown, co-host Greg, how goes it?
It goes well.
And today here in the studio, we have 2 returning guests. You guys know them. You guys love them. To my left, welcome back. What is this, like your 5th or 6th time?
I think so.
Alex.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Hey, man.
Long time no talk.
I know. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah.
It was Alex snuck up on us tonight.
Yeah.
Our other guest here in the studio,
Sneaky.
straight across from me, JP, and I were here talking, and all of a sudden, Alex was just there, standing in the garage. So welcome, JP.
Hey, thanks.
And
You mean the studio?
Yeah, sorry. It's gonna feel so much more official when it's built. So in a couple of weeks, we're gonna have an official built studio inside the garage, but it's gonna be a goddamn studio. So yeah, we're in the studio. Alex snuck up in the studio.
I did.
Welcome, Alex and JP.
Sweet.
Yeah, this is gonna be sick.
We'll see. It's off to a rocky start. All right, you guys know how the show works, but let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. Each week, I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys can chime in on my story, and if you have stories of your own to tell that are true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious, please tell them. Lastly, if you have questions about questions, make sure to ask questions, because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never ask questions. Do we have any questions?
Well, that seems pretty straightforward.
No, I
think.
came ready.
I try to make it very clear. Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Today's serial killer, before about 10 days ago, I had never even heard of,
Ooh.
Exciting.
Sean Vincent Gillis.
I don't know who this is.
Now, really quickly, I don't normally do this, but I have to show you guys what this guy looks like off the bat.
So
Actually,
unprecedented.
Yeah.
Actually,
I don't know.
before I do that, question number 1.
Man, I knew you were gonna sneak up. I knew it was gonna happen.
In what year is Sean Gillis born?
You want us to write or?
Yeah, here you go.
Okay. Got some cards
Let me
here.
get some pens.
Let's see. Thank you, sir,
100. Year 100.
for making it happen.
Active.
I'm like, what's that?
These are great pens.
They're still sharp.
Okay.
They're not dullies.
Why didn't those cards break up when I tossed them? Jesus. They just stayed as
the
a
pages
brick.
are all stuck together.
Yeah, that's how I do. What?
Huh?
All right. 1994, a young gun, says Alex. 1949, same numbers, different order. Let me do math here. It was, yes, JP, sorry. JP, 250 points because
There
Sean
we
Gillis
go,
was
there we go.
born June 24th, 1962.
Man.
All right.
62. I like that you went the opposite way, though, because, a lot of the time, people think that every serial killer is historical. Turns out some of them we haven't heard of until 10 days ago.
I was just hoping for, Young Gun up in here. I don't know. I'll keep waiting.
We've done
guys.
many young gun side stories. I just think that the serial killer story, there's two problems with recent ones, is that there's not a lot of them, and that we don't know shit about it, because a lot of the ones that I am aware of currently are like very on. There's one in Canada now, and I wish that I knew the name. I'm gonna show my serial killer prowess is low. But there's a guy in Canada who they're identifying victims. I think they just identified an 8th.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they have him in custody now. So that should be good. That should be it for him.
I don't mean to derail, but did you guys hear about the grandma serial killer that it happened like 2 days ago?
Please derail.
Yeah.
And no, I did
Yeah,
not.
this is gonna be super
Oh,
inaccurate.
I think I actually did read about this.
I don't know if Greg's looking it up, but like
her name was like Losing Streak Lucy
it
or
was
some
it
shit
was
like
something
that.
super weird. I think she
Yeah.
was from Florida, but she ended up like killing a lookalike that looked extremely similar to her, took her identity, killed her husband, and like she's on the loose right now. They're trying to find her. It's
Yeah.
like 2 days old.
I did see that.
Sketchy.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to know more, guys.
Sketch awesome.
Okay, since Alex derailed, I gotta get 30 seconds real quick.
Yep.
I just received a text message, and this is what it says: "You're a shitty guest, bro. That guy Bobby killed you last episode." What a dick!
Who is that?
What a dick!
Is that
My friend, Mr.
yeah, figures.
What a dick!
That kind of sucks.
Dang.
So redemption, and he doesn't even know that you're here and in the lead right now.
there we go,
Weird.
in the lead. I'm stoked. I'm 0
All right,
for 2.
hey, thanks for listening. JP is gonna try to prove you wrong.
Since we're derailing, that Canadian serial killer's name is Bruce MacArthur.
Bruce MacArthur. Yes.
Okay.
There you go. So we'll figure out how to edit all that into a way that sounds pleasing to the ear.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Yeah, I started it. So he is born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. In 1963, Sean Gillis is just 1 year old when his father, who is a pretty heavy alcoholic at the time, gets in a real bad argument with his mother. I believe her name is Yvonne. Yes, Yvonne and Norman. And so Norman rushes inside and they're out front arguing. And Norman rushes inside and Yvonne comes in and Norman has the gun to Sean's 1 year old head, saying I'm going to fucking kill him. I'm going to fucking kill you. And I'm going to fucking kill myself. And so
Switch the order and do it.
yeah, exactly. Yvonne de-escalates the situation, but obviously reports it. And this is like 1963, so this is when you can say, this guy's crazy, and they'd be like, we're going to take him away for a 4-year hold. And they're like, all right, cool, thank you. And so that's what they do. They take him away, and he goes to several different mental institutions, it says. But Yvonne raised Sean very, very lovingly. Like, from what I can see, there was an example where she said that at one point she whipped him with a thin belt and he cried and it made her cry and she could never hit him ever again. So there was to her claim and his, he'd never mentioned anything of abuse, but he was never, he had a pretty normal childhood besides this 1 year old. But a 1 year old is not going to remember that,
you're
right?
One.
I imagine that story probably resonates past when you're 1, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Would you tell your
if
1 year old
you know
if
it.
something like that happened?
I was going to say, if he knew it.
Well, I think by the time he's 5, the dad's still gone if he was taken away for 4 years, right?
Yeah, but would you tell him it was because he put a gun to your head? He actually,
maybe not.
he won't.
He went to get a pack of smokes. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the deal?
Went to
Sean
go get some milk.
Sean won't actually see his father Norman again until he's 17. Not even a single time. So he's raised by a single mother for the beginning of his life. In 1971, he's now 10. He and his mother moved to a new area in Baton Rouge where his mother is able to afford, or when his mother is able to afford it. They move into a little nicer area in Baton Rouge. And from what all the documentaries I looked up, it seems like North Baton Rouge is where you don't want to be. So I don't know if there's anybody around from Baton Rouge and if that's a terrible judgment, and I apologize for it. But if it is, let me know, because if I ever travel to Baton Rouge, I'll use that travel tip.
Stay out of the north
Yeah,
of Baton Rouge.
stay out of the fucking north, all right? So, yes, his mom saves up. She works hard. She's able to move him into a little bit of a nicer neighborhood. But once they moved to that neighborhood, one of the neighbors they interviewed later, one of the mothers of the children, said that Sean gave the other kids in the neighborhood the willies. That was a direct quote.
I wonder what that means.
Yeah,
A
he's
willy giver.
That can,
Well,
that could mean so many things.
Can we
At
Urban
first-
Dictionary?
At first,
willy giver?
I literally I was looking into that because I was like, was it like just a poor use of the term "wet willy"? Is that what she meant? Because like
Yeah.
the way she said it is like he gave other kids willies.
Yeah, like the willies. Like
Yeah.
it creeps them out.
Yeah, but I know,
Alex
but-
kind of gives me the willies.
I give a lot of people the willies. It's a thing that I
So,
do.
despite what people will say, Yvonne always describes him as being normal and liking things most young boys like, such as building model cars. She said that he was very well behaved, and again, she only spanked him the one time and found that she couldn't do it again. She found the best way to curb his poor behavior was to take away privileges, mostly watching TV. He liked to be in front of the TV quite a bit. So she'd take away TV, and that was the thing that worked. Like, it wasn't physical abuse or the threat of, being grounded. It was like, hey, you're not going to get TV this week. And he'd be, all right, fuck, I'll do it. Whatever. I don't want to lose TV.
I don't lose the 3 channels of TV that we have. That
Come
are
on,
8
it's
hours a day.
1971. There's not even the Brady Bunch yet. He goes to Catholic schools because his mother wanted him to have that type of, she says education, but I think she means the very direct way they have in teaching the kids to
The
be
discipline.
Yeah,
The
it's
Catholic
a,
school
it's-
discipline.
It's a very at this time, I think this is when you could still kind of beat the kids a
Yeah.
little. So
Knock 'em around.
Yeah, she probably knew. But so he meets one of his best friends during this time named John Green. John Green described Sean as very positively, saying he was a smart person and respectful towards adults and had a good sense of humor. So he knows obviously that he killed people, but he's saying looking back, like this is really all that we saw. Later,
Well, yeah, he didn't want to get called out.
yeah.
I knew then that he was going to do it, and I did nothing.
Later that year, Sean enters the 7th grade. He attended Redemptorist High School. He also became best friends with John Rosas. He, Sean, and John, so there's Sean, John, and John, used to spend time going to the movies, the mall, or just each other's houses. Just straight up best friends, homies. Question number 2. What was their crew of John, and Sean known as? Was it J squared S?
Oh.
JJS, 2 Johns, 1 Sean, or they didn't have a nickname.
Dude, John's
John's
one
one
Sean is
Sean.
definitely the best
That's
one.
pretty funny.
I don't know that it's
By the way,
right
here's
one.
the picture I wanted to show you now that you guys know what year he was born.
Nice.
I feel like I've seen that guy.
Yeah, every single warning about a sexual predator that you've ever seen.
I feel like I know that guy, guys.
It's not good. That's not good at all.
All right, Alex says JJS.
Oh, it's a 2.
Okay, so also JJS. But the 2 Johns and the 1 Sean did not go by any nickname. Trick question.
Oh, burn. That's a hard burn.
I know. I just figured you guys would like that.
You got me.
I am just glad that it's not 2 Johns, 1 Sean.
But I mean, all it does really is describe them. It's also kind of catchy. Anyways, as they got older,
that'll trend.
Sean and his 2 friends, John and John, got into some minor trouble now and then, but nothing too bad. They went through a phase where they became interested in devil worship. Who doesn't? Hail Satan.
Ooh.
They watched some people who were participating in the acts and enjoyed in the thrill of being scared from it. Apparently, they hung out in some,
Some
in some
sewers.
forest and watched from far away as some people were doing some things they thought was satanic.
Is
And
this around the time of Satanic Panic? I guess
this is like
timeline?
1978, so this is a little early,
A little
but
early.
still, I think it's
Stuff like this helped lead to it, though.
Yeah.
well, and also I
It
think we're
definitely helped
talking
contribute.
3 Catholic school boys, so
Sacrilege.
the idea of some people out, it was probably just like teenagers fucking around,
Playing marbles.
yeah,
They're playing jacks.
They're playing jacks on a pentagram. So
Well,
we
and
didn't
really,
know what was
I
happening.
don't know that these guys actually believed in the whole Satanist aspect of it as much as it was rebelling at full speed in the opposite direction of where Catholic school was taking them. Like Catholic school is like, this, that, and the other. And they're like, no, fuck that. Hail Satan.
Hell's Angels.
So, like a rubber band, it just snapped back the opposite way.
They had uniforms, but like they refused to tuck in their shirts and stuff.
Dang, they wore them inside out.
They like cut off the
Looked like
sleeves.
Angus Young.
So again, they watched some people they thought were participating in these acts of Satanism, and they got a little scared by it. They liked the thrill. They would also smoke a little weed together, but Sean seemed to enjoy it the most out of all of the others. He kept this kind of side part of his life very secretive from his mom, and she seemed to be very blind to it anyway. A neighbor, Carolyn Clay.
Alex just threw up a little in his mouth.
I kept it in there, though, guys.
You good?
Yeah, I swallowed it.
A neighbor, Carolyn Clay, saw a different side of Sean than his mother did. One night, she reported that, quote, at about 3 a.m, I woke to a loud noise coming from their yard. Sean was in the front yard beating wildly on some garbage cans. Like he was just out there beating the shit out of them. I don't know. Picturing a 16-year-old out just like just beating the shit out of some aluminum trash cans.
And not even like good, like stomp, just like,
Right.
Not good like stomp. I'm picturing like Nelson Muntz out in front of his house. Punching trash cans.
That seems very appropriate. So later he would tell another neighbor that he was very frustrated in his life because he didn't have a girlfriend. He's like, nice guy extraordinaire.
That's what he told the neighbor?
Yeah, a different neighbor at a different time about a different destructive act. That most of his
it's because
frustration
he went to
came
school
from the fact
sweaty
that
from
he
being
didn't-
up all night beating trash cans.
It seems like an interesting thing to bring up to your neighbor. And the neighbor comes over like, hey, why are you doing weird shit in your front yard? Well, I don't have a girlfriend.
I imagine it was more aggressive though, and he didn't stop beating the trash cans. Like he's beating them. They're like, "What the fuck is the problem?" He's like, "Because I don't have a girlfriend."
Just maintaining eye contact.
His hands are just bleeding from the aluminum trash cans, but he doesn't care.
I thought he
doesn't
used
care.
sticks.
Who knows? Who knows? So, let's see. I lost my spot again. Goddamn tablet. Okay. He was prone in his life to fits of anger, that he was a very angry young man. His mom, again, does not see this side of Sean. He does a very good job of, for the most part, hiding it from her. She does a very good job of, for the most part, staying pretty blind to it. So in 1979, his biological father, Norman's father, dies. Sean is actually fairly close to his father's grandparents. So he didn't know his dad, and he didn't see him again until he was 17, but he was pretty close to these grandparents. So at this time, Sean is able to, for the first time since he was 1 year old, see his father, because his father comes to the funeral of his father, obviously. So for the first time in 17 years, he sees his dad. And eventually, they're going to develop a relationship from this. So that's 1979. He's 17. He's 18 now. He's going to become an adult. In 1980, question number 3, he'll be arrested for the first time. For what? Is it A, molestation, B, assault, C, arson, or D, trespassing? Molestation, assault, arson, or trespassing. You guys good to go? JP says arson. Alex says trespassing. In 1980, at the age of 18, for the first time, Sean is arrested for criminal trespassing. Alex, 250
no.
points
On the board.
getting back in it.
This is how it happens for me every time.
See, that's what I normally say. But I'm kind of fingers crossed. Don't tell Greg. I hope we don't have an artistic challenge because I really suck at those. But that's what I say too.
The thing about them is that I don't ever remember them until someone mentions them in the middle of an episode. So if there's going to be one, it's going to be your fault. In 1980, he obviously got in a little trouble for the trespassing. He gets out of it for the most part. Doesn't even mention it, to be honest. Later, he graduates from Redemptorist High School. Both his mother and father were there to see him graduate. Later that year, he's hanging out with his dad, and it's been about a year now. He's rekindled this relationship. He's feeling really good. He's at his dad's house, and somehow he sees disturbing photos that belong to his father. They were of naked men in various sexual positions. That was the quote. It was porn. It was gay porn. It was at this time Sean found out that his father was homosexual, and this horrified Sean very much.
Were they photos that his dad took, or
No,
or
I
just
think
like
they were
photos that
they were
like
porn
nudie
mags.
mags and
Yeah,
stuff?
I think they were homosexual pornography, and he saw that and was like, "What the fuck?" And even though he had began to rebuild this relationship with his dad, this wasn't, let's say, his jam. So Norman, who obviously throughout his life has had trouble with drugs and alcohol, has joined AA. He's cleaning up his act. He really wants to be a part of Sean's life. He doesn't know that Sean found the porno mags or whatever he finds. And he calls Yvonne and Sean and says, "Hey, like, I moved out to California. I'm doing much better. I want you guys to come out here and visit me." And they're like, "Nah." And so
Good for you. And,
right. Yeah. And so they refused the visit, and Sean was never able to deal with what he had seen, and I don't believe that he ever saw his father again.
Man,
My dad had some gay porn. I'm never going to see this asshole again.
I hate you, Dad.
Yeah. And again, I don't even know that there was like a confrontation about it. So
Probably not.
what if it wasn't his dad? What if his dad's like, "Yeah, my buddy Mark's been staying here a couple weeks. He's got a big old box of pornography. Oh, you looked through it." So for the next couple years, Sean's going to begin working for the Southland Corporation, which owns the 7-Eleven chain of convenience stores. I don't know if they still do.
Wow.
But between 1980 and 82, Sean was a 7-Eleven clerk.
That's
Over
pretty
the
cool.
Yeah, over the next few years, he's going to change jobs and was never really content in one place. He didn't like to work, JP, but instead enjoyed to sit in.
I like him. so far, so good. I mean, this is a little homophobic. Other than that, I think so far, so good.
But instead, he enjoyed sitting in front of his new computer. So he's on the edge of computer society because it's 92, and he's like, "I can't get enough of this thing, man."
Weird.
92. So he attends community college and eventually gets certified in computers as a computer programmer. So 92, he's probably quite ahead of the curve in most computer programmers of the 90s. He probably could have had a bright future for himself had he applied himself to this. And that's exactly what he does. He gets his master's. No, I'm lying. In 1982, Sean lived with his mother the entire time.
He co-founds Oracle.
Yeah, until his mother gets offered a job in Atlanta. She asks Sean to go with her, but he decides not to. Sean was on his own for the first time in his life, but the entire time his mother was still sending him money. So he was, still getting paid. 1992, after his mom leaves, he has a lot more time to himself. This is when he discovers that he really and truly and thoroughly enjoys internet pornography. Man, imagine if he knew about what was on there now.
He had to wait, and it was like, it was loading.
For sure.
Oh God, top down loading.
He probably was. Man.
He's like, "Please load upside down. Please load upside down. Please load upside down." Okay, so
Who picked up the phone?
oh my God. But this is like the escalation begins quickly because he's 30 years old. It's 92. He finds out, holy shit, I love internet porn. Later that year, he's caught peeping into a neighbor's window. When he is caught, he claims, "I'm looking for my cat." The police were called and he was arrested for outstanding warrants of traffic violations. He was released shortly after. A few years later, 1994, Sean met Terry Lemoyne, where she worked overnight at a convenience store. He asked her out shortly after. Terry had been through a lot of shit in her life, and if you go through any documentary of, at least any of the ones that I found and watched, of Sean Gillis, they're all pretty much around the relationship between Terry Lemoyne and Sean Gillis. So she's like the centerpiece for almost all of the Investigation Discovery, all of the different documentaries over the last, 10 to 15 years of documentaries being put together about him, 3 or 4. She is the kind of crux of it all.
Well, she's got the convenience store history. I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge.
That was huge for him. So apparently he went in with just a friend of his who said, "Hey, you're going to really like Terry." They hit it off. They both collected movies and really liked sitting in front of fucking TV screens and watching movies. And he was really into computers and movies. So She worked overnights. He really liked her. He kind of fell for her. She had been abused in the past, though. She had a pretty rough life, from what I can discern. She gets into an argument before they had really began getting real deep into dating, and she thought in her mind, like, I'm going to see if he's an abuser. So she slapped him across the face.
Oh, fuck.
Now, I'm not saying this is a good method. And when I first heard it, because she explained it on 3 documentaries, I think, that I watched, and I was like, it never sounds better. This always sounds like a bad idea. You should not test someone like this. But she did. She slapped him across the face, and apparently he, like, stamped his foot on the ground, like, grabbed her wrist and said, girls aren't supposed to hit boys, and boys aren't supposed to hit girls. And he, like, threw her hand to the side and went to another room and cried.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I was expecting him to be like, again.
Again, come on.
Not like that, like this.
Once more with some gusto.
So after that, Terry apologized, and she promised there would be no violence in their relationship.
I'm sorry, but I was testing you.
Yep.
You
That's,
passed
I mean,
and cried.
you got to be minus, but that's a pass, you know. So after Sean is able to pass this fucking difficult test, they become very serious. In March of 1994, Sean is now 31 years old, and he kills his first victim. And again, like I said, we move into escalation. So he starts with essentially like what a lion would go and pick off, like the young or weak or sick or old gazelle. And he kills 81-year-old Anne Bryan. He attempted to rape her. When he found this wasn't possible,
Weird.
in frustration, he stabs her 47 times.
Whoa.
That's weird.
Yeah. Question number 4.
47. Oh, yeah, right.
He has now killed 1. How many more will Sean kill?
Okay.
Convicted of killing, or is it him claiming to?
This is going to be his claim, and we're going to call it a pretty sure number.
Okay.
But he won't be convicted of this number. Good question. This is just the number that we're pretty sure. Most serial killers don't get convicted of them.
Are we doing stabs?
Yep, you stab at it. Closest to it gets it. If you stab it, it is a 1,000 points. This can make or break a game right here.
Man,
So I think
that's
there's
a
only
lot of
7
points.
questions tonight.
There's no multiple choice on this one.
No multiple choice. How many has he killed besides the 1? How many more will he kill?
Okay.
All right, Alex says 6. JP says 6.
What?
Oh,
It's the flannels.
it must be.
It's the flannels.
They're wearing flannels.
We're
And it,
warm.
it must be the
We
flannels.
texted on our way.
We're-
over. You're wearing that one, right?
So you guys want to both take points or throw a single paper, rock, scissor for the points.
What was the first option? Both.
You can both take points. Yeah, for sure.
Because we're both equally as close or
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
on,
I see
right?
You
what
couldn't be.
saying.
You both get 6.
see
It
what
doesn't
you're
matter
saying.
what the answer is.
It's your call. You want to rock, paper, scissors one time? You want to?
Let's take points, dude.
All right.
All right, they're both going
Call
to
it a
take
wash.
points because
take
they
points.
both guessed 6. The answer.
Remember, if it ends in a tie, there's an artistic challenge.
Ooh.
Exciting. Exciting.
The answer is 7.
Ooh.
Oh, you should have guessed one higher for 1,000 points. One of you.
That's pretty crazy.
Because he will kill a total of 8. So you're both going to get points on that under your agreeing upon this. We've got a score of 500 to 500. What do you know? As of now, halfway, it's a tie.
Exciting. we both have losing records,
I know,
so
honestly.
I think somehow nobody has a winning record on the Serial Killers podcast.
I'm like, I always lose when I come on, dude.
In 1994, Terry finds out that Sean's been drinking a little more than she thought was the 1 or 2 beers a night, which really upset her as she asked Sean to, for the most part, quit drinking and doing drugs when they got together. She sounds like she's got a lot of fucking rules, you know what I'm saying? Like, be able to take slaps in the face, quit everything you like, you know. She also found that Sean's mom spoiled him by continuing to send him the money, even at 32 years old. Eventually, Terry was able to get Sean a job where he worked at a convenience store with her. So he was working the day shift, she was working the night shift. They still never saw each other, but blah, blah, blah. He got a job. The One of the documentaries had the convenience store owner.
Oh, that's
where Terry
awesome.
Lemoyne worked the entire time, and Sean Gillis worked as well. And she said he was a lazy piece of shit, essentially, and not, a few more words than that, but that was essentially all she had to say.
He didn't have what it takes to be.
But what's funny is Terry Lemoyne would
Jay
always say,
and
like,
Bob.
That's literally what I've been thinking this whole time. These clerks.
He was saying that, like, Terry was saying that he was too smart for the job. Like, this isn't like challenging enough for him. Like, that's why it's
He's
not,
bored.
Like, yeah,
At
he's
the convenience
bored.
store.
Yes, he's bored here. So
Shocking. It's not mentally stimulating to work the night shift
at the convenience store. Well, he didn't like it, so he left. In 1995, he's now 33 years old. Sean and Terry move in together, and apparently he had a house that was like ravaged by Hurricane Andrew and was never repaired, and he was living in that. So they'd been dating like a year before she'd even seen his house. Ooh. And they spent a few months renovating his house, living with her before she moved in with him here in 1995. At this point, they've been dating, I think, 2.5 years, and they'd only had sex like 3 times. So Terry's very frustrated with Sean because she wants to have more sex than 3 times over 2 years. So after they move in together, Terry finds out why, because he is full-on addicted to the pornography. So Sean is spending a good portion of his day when Terry Lemoyne is not around, just jerking off to internet porn.
Just porning.
Just going hard in 1994 style. So
Phrasing.
Yeah. Eventually, or was it on purpose? Eventually, even though it bothered her, she learned to ignore the issue. Yes, you should always learn to ignore your lover's addictions. In 1995, at 33, Sean shows Terry a website of pictures of dead women. Terry is disgusted, but Sean finds it funny. Again, Terry doesn't give the issue much thought. A pattern here is becoming clear to me. Sean is supposedly very sweet to Terry and treats her very well throughout their relationships, besides a few low points. At one point, Terry's mother is terminally ill and in the hospital. Essentially, she gets a call like, "Mom's going to die. You need to get down here." But Terry, which we haven't really spoke about too much at this point, has epilepsy, like severe enough to where she doesn't have a driver's license, so she can't drive herself around. Sean picks her up and takes her to work, and they've got a pretty good thing going.
Right, he knows where it's at.
Yeah, and he can drive, she cannot. So she says, like, I need to head to the hospital. My mom is dying, and Sean is like, "Nah, I'm not going to take you," and doesn't. So her mom dies, and she was very upset, obviously, with him about that. January 4th, 1999, he's now 36 years old. He kills a second victim named Catherine Hall. She is also she's going to be the first of many sex workers that he kills.
Is she also 82? She an 82?
She is just 29 years
worker?
old.
Okay.
29. He got her into the car by telling her he wanted oral sex. Once she was in the car, he put a zip tie around her neck. Now, when I say zip tie, I'm going to call them zip ties, but it was like a nylon cord with like a plastic locking mechanism. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It almost looks like a bread lock, like one of the ones with like the beads that pull through. But think of nylon rope that's getting cinched into a smaller piece of plastic.
So it's essentially a device designed to strangle hookers.
Yeah, or bundle things. Yeah, but yes.
Like hooker necks.
Hooker
like
necks.
Bundling hooker necks.
Hooker esophagus and tracheas.
Yeah.
So he gets her in saying he wants oral sex. When she gets in, he puts the tie around her neck.
So I changed my mind. I'm done bundling things and I don't want oral sex.
She tried to get away, but Sean catches up to her and stabs her 16 times.
Oh, man.
After she was dead, he undressed her and mutilated her body. It was said that he would take skin with him. Like, it was his trophy.
Nice.
He was going to take little pieces with him.
That's disgusting.
Yep. It would become very common practice for Sean when he killed women to mutilate them. He took her body to another location where she was found the next morning at the end of a dead-end street under the dead-end sign. So she was posed under a dead-end sign at the end of a dead-end street.
Oh, how very cryptic.
And
Yeah.
she was dead.
Yeah, that's just it.
And she was
Fatally dead.
And her life had been brought to an end.
That's correct. As will this first segment. Let's take a break right here. Come back with the conclusion of this lonely fuckface. Come back or I'll kill you. Hey, how goes it, co-host Greg?
It goes well. How goes it over there?
Very good. Can I recommend a podcast to you, my friend?
Please do.
Dude, you have got to check out Fame and Misfortune. It's hosted by two young ladies who work in the beauty industry, named Erin and Stephanie. It is a celebrity true crime podcast. So think OJ, Kurt and Courtney, the Kennedys. These girls get together. I believe it's bi-weekly, and they give wonderful tips on skin, hair, and makeup. So there's a little bonus to the celebrity true crime. And everybody wins, Greg. So get your skin straight. Listen to some celebrity true crime. Check out Fame and Misfortune. Do it at fameandmisfortunepodcast.com, on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podomatic, and SoundCloud. All right.
I can't wait. My skin looks ragged, and I cannot wait to hear more true crime.
Yes. All right. So let's bring it back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. We actually took a break that time. It's kind of nice. Wasn't that nice? That was nice. Greg's like, I'm ready to get this over with.
I had chili cheese Fritos.
So
I did not.
that's why Greg's actually
That's
mad.
a shame.
He lives 100 miles away. We weren't able to pass him some chili cheese Fritos.
Chili cheese Fritos in the bunker.
They're pretty good.
So we're just going to jump right back into it. On May 30th, 1999, Sean kills his third victim, Hardy Mosley Schmidt, who is 52. Unlike most of Sean's other victims, Hardy was married to an attorney, had 3 children, and was known in the community. So this wasn't a sex worker. This was like a prominent woman about the community. But he saw her running, and apparently, like, he saw her running once, and it was like very Jeffrey Dahmer with the jogger. Like, he became obsessed with her, so he just kept watching her. And day after day, she kept going on the same jog, same route. So change your routes, everybody. Run a new route every day. Learn a new neighborhood. He just kept watching her. He followed her, and on the day he decided to do it, she again went on the same route. He hit her with his car and knocked her down. He essentially hog ties her with zip ties, throws one around her neck, and takes her to an isolated area. By this point, he strangles her to death with a zip tie, undresses her, and rapes her dead body.
He's still married, right?
Yeah, all this time. Yep. He's doing all of this at night because it's common law married. He's not married. He's been with this lady a long time. She is working overnight at the convenience store every night. She works like 10 to 6, and then he comes and picks her up at 6 a.m. So he kills this woman, and he keeps the car in the body until he goes and picks up Terry the next day. Like, this body is in the trunk.
I was just
when he picks up Terry.
Is it in the trunk?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And Terry comments on the smell because it's been like the next day. It's not the same day that it happened.
oh, that's good.
So it's been in there 36 hours or whatever. I shouldn't say it. I feel terrible. All right. So the body's been in there 36 hours. And she's like, this smells like, and he says, yeah, like I hit a dog. It got all up under there. Like, I need to go get it all clean. And she's like, yeah, get the car clean. What? Why wouldn't you go get that clean? So she goes inside and goes to sleep, and he leaves to go clean the car, AKA ditch the body. Somewhere outside in a rural parish away from the Baton Rouge area. And they never speak of the incidents again. Now, what's crazy to me is that, like I said, every documentary that I watched was like revolved around her kind of telling the story. Like, she led the narrative. Like, she was pretty blind to a lot of this. And I don't mean to blame somebody who was like so close to a serial killer and was betrayed, but we look a lot at serial killers and their loved ones and wives and say, like, how didn't they know?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they know? And I don't understand why that wasn't asked of her.
Yeah. That's super
I mean,
interesting,
like,
too.
even if you don't know what a dead body smells like, you know what a dead body smells like. You know what I mean? Like,
You recognize the smell of death.
right, like instinctively, I think. Like, the first time, like, I grew up, I shouldn't say grew up. For a few years, my family lived in a house that had a big old barn. We didn't do anything in the barn, but the people who owned it, like, had some horses or whatever. But for the most part, it was an abandoned barn. And at some point, a cat must have died in there. And I remember the first time on a summer day opening the door and that you just got hit with that smell. Mm-hmm. I knew instantly, like, there's something dead in here. Like, I was 12 years old, and we were like, ugh.
You think there's some sort of built-in human characteristic to be able to sense death
I
by
don't-
its smell?
I don't know.
It's
Evolution,
on a
man.
biological level. For
Really?
Sure.
I mean, honestly, as a kid, I
think so.
couldn't have been older than 12. I lived there until I was 12 years old. And when that smell hit me in the face, I knew that somewhere in there something died and I was going to find it.
Interesting.
It was gross.
Because I knew when I was gonna grow up, I was gonna have a serial killer.
And I was going to get to tell this tale.
Well, it was the way the smell made him feel.
Yucky.
I feel like when I'm older, there will be such a thing where I can host my own radio show at my
On the
house
internet.
with my friends on the internet.
What's crazy it's about the same time.
Ah,
So but back to because sometimes I lead away and don't come back. Check it out, I'm back, haters. Back to it. I don't understand how you could smell that, believe that it was he hit a dog. I don't know. It seems awfully like all right, cool. Like I don't need to know what you're talking about.
I live an alternative lifestyle and work in convenience store opposite shifts, and things are a little kooky and weird in general.
Well,
maybe.
but her whole thing was like there was a point where she started getting a little suspicious too of like what he was doing at night because she knew that he would just like go out and drive around. So she started taking like odometer readings, and like some nights he would drive like 120 miles while he was at work. So it was like, where is he going? And my family's being loud in there. So she there were a lot of signs that she was suspicious, but never like really anything firm as far as I can tell. But I just wonder why nobody. I think it was just an easy way to get the story, and they decided not to investigate it any further. So, anyways, later in 1999, that was in May. So this is November 12th, 1999. He kills his fourth victim, who is Joyce Williams. She's only 36 years old, but again, this is a sex worker. He kills her with a nylon zip tie, just like he does his other victims. This time, he takes her to his home to mutilate her body and cut off body parts. For the first time, Sean ate human skin from a victim.
This is stepping up for sure.
It's almost like literally every kill he escalates a little bit. So
I'm trying to figure out like what his MO is, and
I think
I'm trying to figure out if he used like a crock pot or like cast iron.
No, here we go. Let's finish up here.
Oh no.
He cut off Joyce's nipples and ate them.
oof.
Sean then picked up Terry from work with the body of Joyce Williams in the back seat of the car.
This guy gives no fucks.
The back
He
seat.
wanted to get caught so bad.
Buckled in the back.
That's just my friend chilling. Bernie.
I'm taking her home. She's drunk at the bar.
So later that night, he would dump the body on the east side of Iberville Parish. The
Wait,
bones,
he picked up.
His wife.
Terry. I think
with-
the body was like stuffed down in the floorboard.
It was
of
probably
it was
like-
it was
like on the floor.
non-visible in the back
But
seat. Is my
that's
guess.
too close, dude.
Well, why not use the trunk?
Yeah.
Please.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we're saying is like it was the thrill to him. Like he was probably hard as a rock knowing that body was in the back seat and his wife, common law wife, his long-term girlfriend was sitting next to him, none the wiser. It probably, you know what I mean? Like for someone like this, to you and I, we're like, what a fucking sick piece of shit. It literally like makes my stomach churn a little. For him, he was just like, oh yeah, it was his deal.
He's like, you cool if
God
I put
damn.
your purse next to that bundle of clothes that kind of looks like a dead body? I'll put it right there though. You can get it if you want.
Don't-
Would you mind riding in the back seat? I'm thinking about training to be a taxi driver, and
So let's see what it
I'll
feels
let
like.
you in.
Yeah, so not cool. So he's gonna break into the Millennium in style, kill his fifth victim, Lillian Robinson. She's 52. She is another sex worker. He killed her in the same way, and also took her to his home. He did not have enough time to mutilate her because Terry was getting off work soon, but
no.
instead played with her dead body. And he said he repeatedly put his penis into her mouth. Like he's just so sad. He's just a sad, sick little fuck.
He reminds me of a cat. Like he's just playing. You know what I mean? Like
He's very predatory.
yeah,
Like
he
he's
reminds me
very.
of a lazy cat, a sad cat.
He's like Garfield of killers.
Yep.
He hates Mondays.
We just coined him, guys.
Yep. So it's Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his
I
fucking
mean,
deal is.
Garfield's a dick, but I mean, that's a
He
rough
just, like-
parallel to draw.
He just really wanted lasagna. So Sean, not Garfield, takes her to a deserted place away from Baton Rouge and dumps her body on the Atchafalaya Basin. Practice that one. In March of 2000, at 37, he's 37 now. Lillian's body was discovered by some fishermen. October of 2000, Sean goes to New Iberia to see his goddaughter. We put that in quotes. Christine. He had always been good to Christine and loved her very much. Christine was Lily's daughter, but Lily, his girl, had given her up for adoption because Lily, in her past, remember, she had kind of a rough, drug-riddled past, and I believe she was a dancer at one point. And so when she had a kid, she decided the best route was adoption. But she now, it didn't make it very clear, but it didn't seem like she had ever like got her back. But they were still very close. Like there was an open adoption, and she was very good, like friends with her daughter now. You know, like they had a very good relationship. I don't know. That's the way the TV show made it seem, but I don't think that it's her mother.
The TV said they spent Easters together.
That's the relationship. But Sean was involved in Christine's life. Christine was in a lot of the interviews too, because she was now an adult at this point. So Sean had a very strong relationship with Lily's daughter as well. So in October of the same year, while visiting Christine, Sean sees his next victim. After he visits with Christine, he kills Marilyn Nevels, who is 38. She was also a sex worker and was killed in the same way most of his victims are, zip ties and stabbings. He also took her dead body to his house and showered with her corpse.
What?
Later, he took the body and left it on top of a levee without even trying to hide it, like just out in the open. The body would be found later by a man walking in the woods. From October of 2000, this killing with Nevins, to September of 2003, he would not kill for any of this time. There was another serial killer who went to work after sex, or sorry, there was another killer who went after sex workers who was named Derek Todd Lee. Some of us, I don't know if have you heard of Derek Todd Lee? You heard that name?
Familiar.
I had definitely heard of him, but I didn't know too much. But apparently he was working in Baton Rouge about the same time as Sean Gillis. So Sean Gillis realized this and like took a back seat, essentially admiring Derek Todd Lee's work. He even kept newspaper clippings of the stories from the people Derek Todd Lee killed. Yeah. Because he's Sean Gillis and he knows the ones he killed. So he would take the newspaper clippings of the other ones. Like, I kind of like this guy. Like, this guy's got good steez.
He's like a colleague.
Yeah. And that was kind of the thing, too, is at this point they got Derek Todd Lee.
Contemporary.
Yeah. They've got Derek Todd Lee, and they're like, all right, everybody, like, rest assured, it's over. Because apparently in Baton Rouge at this time, people are in a fucking panic because I'm telling you about the ones people Sean Gillis killed. There are other people that Derek Todd Lee killed. It'll be stories for another episode, but
Baton Rouge is a creepy place.
It's a rough place at this time. Like the police were saying, like mace couldn't stay on the shelf. All self-defense classes that were normally, you know, like you think about it, like Baton Rouge self-defense. There were probably 6 people in these classes. They were filled up, like they were packed. They were booked for months. Anything that had to do with defending yourself was
weird.
Was sold out. Like it was the demand was high in Baton Rouge at this time. So, like we said, he comes back October 2003. He's now 41 years old. He's going to kill his 7th victim, Johnny Mae Williams, who is 45. Johnny Mae is a woman. Just so we clear that up. Unlike maybe John, his friends, the 2 Johns. He wished he was a John, but he was a Sean. 2 Johns and a Sean.
John J squared S.
Yep.
Johnny May.
So, do it. Johnny Mae was also very close with her children and other people in the community, but through some tough luck and an addiction to drugs, she'd become a sex worker. Sean picked her up because he knew her and knew that she would trust him. She had cleaned his house a few times for money. Sean killed her in the same way that he did most of his other victims, and for the first time, he took a body part with him, both of her hands.
Her hands?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You never want to get involved that deep.
Yeah. So he took her hands. Sean drove to somewhere isolated outside of Baton Rouge to leave her body, but he just left it exposed on top of an embankment. What do we get here? 6 months later, in February of 2004, he kills his eighth and final victim, Donna Bennett Johnson, who was 43. She, like Johnny May, had children but had become addicted to drugs and became a sex worker. He killed her using another zip tie, like all of his other victims. He then mutilated her body, cut off her nipples and ate them, and took 50 pictures of the body after the mutilation. He took her to another location and posed the body to be found.
A dead end.
Possibly. On March 3rd, 2004, a task force was formed to look into the deaths of Donna, Johnny, and Catherine, as well as similar unsolved homicides. So they haven't pinned them together yet, but they have a pretty good idea that...
Have they pinned the other guys together at this point?
Todd and him.
Todd.
The other serial killer?
Yeah.
They've essentially sussed out because, what's the name? Derek Lee Todd is killing students and killing...
Okay, so there's a clear differentiation between...
Apparently he killed some sex workers, but yes, like from what I can tell, they have decided whose are who.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a tough job.
Yes.
They have all the red, like, what is it?
Yeah.
The twine.
All the red
yarn.
yarn.
Yeah.
Both killers were apparently very helpful in identifying their victims.
Their kills.
From what I can...
Just put them together in a room. This one's mine. Well, no, this one. Well, this one. I was.
They got
You were over
captains.
here, so I was there.
So anyway, in March of 2004, the task force was put together. In April, Sean is approached and questioned by Agent Jeff Methvin in his home. Sean, at this time, agrees to a DNA swab. He agrees to the DNA swab by saying, quote, "Let's get this shit over with already," end quote. What a badass, huh?
Dang, just ready to be caught.
Yep.
Backseating.
They returned later that night and took Sean in for an interview. They felt sure that they had their guy, but the DNA test did not come back, and they didn't want to keep him on something that they didn't have him for, so they let him go again. Later that night, like 2 a.m., the results come back, and it's positive. Like, the DNA matches. So they send SWAT to break down the door at Gillis's home, and they take Sean and Terry into custody.
Oh, Terry.
Terry said that they kicked down the door and threw like smoke bombs in. Like it was fucking.
I don't blame them.
It was real deal Holyfield. Like
Dude's eating people.
Yeah.
Eating nipples.
Yeah, that's eating nipples. That's
That's
smoke
where-
bomb worthy.
That's where the line gets
So
strong.
Yeah.
apparently on the way out, he was just looking at Terry and saying, I'm sorry. And they put him in a car pretty quickly. And she was like, what the fuck is going on? Like what? And she's like, tell me what's happening. And the cop, like she says that a cop turned to her and said, you didn't know? You live with a serial killer.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Harsh.
Yeah, that's what I said, and I'm not sure that it would even happen like that, but that's what she said happened. So, question number 6: when would Sean Vincent Gillis confess about the murders? This one's multiple choice. Would he confess? A, later that day. B, after a week in jail. C, the night before court. Or D, he's never confessed.
This is question 5 or 6?
Might be 5, and I've
I
made
think.
it 6. Yeah, that's what's up.
Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at not numbering them correctly. Later that day, after a week in jail, the night before, or he never confessed.
Okay.
JP says after the night before court.
The night before court.
Alex says later that day. Alex is going to take the lead because he confessed to the murders later that day.
Oh, no.
At which time a warrant was issued and his house was searched.
I just feel like he's been trying to get caught this whole time, you know?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I just thought it would be so dramatic.
Yeah.
If it were the night before court and he's like, look, I know you've prepared all these things for 2 years. Fuck you.
So here's a problem. That's not really a problem. Alex has got the lead. 750 to 500.
I think it's definitely a problem.
There's only one more question. So if JP gets it correct and you do not. It will end in a tie, at which point it will be an artistic challenge. Now, here's the thing, Greg, start thinking about it now. I've shown them a picture of Sean Vincent Gillis because I needed them to see his stupid fucking face. Think of something else that they're going to have to handle as an artistic challenge should this occasion arise. You do your co-host thing over there and think about it while we...
You can see the cogs turning.
Yeah, so Greg does look like he's begun to think those.
I can't believe that where I'm at now is I'm pulling for the artistic challenge.
No, I'm so...
That is so rough.
According to the text messages, I've heard what kind of a guest you are. So,
Oh, no.
Okay, so on May 4th, is about 2 weeks later, Lafayette Police Department informed by Baton Rouge Police Department that Marilyn Nevels had been missing for 4 years and that Sean had confessed to killing her. Lafayette PD had no report of her missing and no idea that a crime had even been committed. So he's just like, yeah, I killed her. And they're like, who?
What?
Yeah.
You killed
And
what?
he's like,
You did
yeah,
what?
trust me, I did it.
Oh.
So the crime lab gets a warrant to scan his house for blood, bone, and tissue. They found a lot of evidence at the house, and for the first time, Terry hears that some of the murders, or at the very least, the mutilations, were done on her kitchen floor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And there was a story, too, in one of the docs where she said that on her birthday one day, like, Sean had just, like, fully cleaned the house, and she couldn't believe how, like, thoughtful it was for him to just, like, scrub down the house like that.
The
and,
toothbrush.
like, it had never been so
Yeah.
clean. And looking back, it
smells
looks
like bleach and ammonia.
yeah, it looks like he probably had just killed and mutilated a woman in the kitchen. And,
While he's like cleaning, he's like, I think it's my wife's birthday tomorrow.
yeah, like that's
It might be her birthday.
That's
He
probably,
That's how
probably
he
br-
played it off.
He picked her up.
That's got to
and
be a
brought her
heavy
home.
realization, though.
I can't believe you cleaned the kitchen for my birthday. For sure I did.
I definitely did
You
that.
And
fucking
you know what
believe
else?
that?
Twice times.
sit right there. I'm gonna rub those feet.
Don't look under the cabinets.
Okay, but can you not rub my hands this time?
Oh my god. So June 10th, 2004, he is indicted for the murder of Donna Bennett. The prosecution was seeking the death penalty. July 14th, he's indicted for the murder of Joyce Williams. August, he pleads guilty to the murder of Joyce Williams, and he's sentenced to life in prison. July 21st, 2008, the trial begins in Baton Rouge for the murder of Donna Bennett. July 22nd, Lauren Keller testified that she had been out on the morning of February 27th and saw what looked to be a body on the edge of Ben-Hur Canal.
Ben-Hur Canal?
Yeah, Ben-Hur.
That sounds
That's
sick.
great.
I want to live there.
Nicholas Murphy, a deputy who transported Sean, said that Sean admitted to him that his weapon of choice was a flex cuff, or essentially the nylon zip tie.
The hooker choking mechanism.
Correct. I believe the proper term is sex worker.
Oh, right. Do you have a lot of sex worker listeners that we don't want to offend?
On July 24th, there were many different pieces of evidence from the victims that linked Sean to the crimes, including tire impressions belonging to the vehicle that he drove. Apparently, so what they did was they get the tire impressions. We've seen this before. There's 80 million people with these tires. So in like a 400 square mile area, there was something like 119 people that had these tires. So they just split it up, and there was like FBI was on it at this point. So there's like 6 agents, and over a week, they just took like 15 leads a day and went and
It's like
did
door
some
to door.
rounds. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. But obviously at the top of the list is our boy Sean Gillis.
Shawnee boy.
So that was how a lot of it all got started, with having him at the top of the list. So July 25th, 2008, closing arguments are presented, and the prosecution asked the jury to find Sean guilty of first-degree murder. Jury came back with a unanimous verdict of guilty for the first-degree murder of the death of Johnston. July 26, 2008, the jury begins to hear testimony in the penalty phase of the trial. Prosecutor Burns presents evidence of other murders committed by Gillis. The next day, Josh Knoll testified that Sean Gillis confessed to him in an interview in 2004 that he killed the women in these cases. July 28th, Dr. Dorothy Lewis took the stand to make a case for Gillis being mentally insane, claiming that signs pointed to him having schizoaffective disorder. Now, I'm conflicted because I don't want somebody who is incapable of understanding the difference between right and wrong to be mistaken for somebody who is. Because although they've done wrong things, they just need to go to a different place. Being in a general population prison is not where somebody who doesn't understand belongs. But we're fucking done. And this is the first we hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to be insensitive, but it just seems like they were like, come on, is there a fucking doctor that'll say he's a fucking crazy ass? Come on. You, I'll give you $25. Come on, right now.
What do you think? Eating nipples? Crazy? What do you think?
Come on. I don't know. I don't like that we just hear about it now. It seems like some surprise.
Yeah.
We also have this doctor who will testify he's an insane person. The jury's
Dr.
like,
Nick, just in time.
That's like rickety.
hello, everybody.
Dr. Nick.
So, yeah, that's just it weirded me out. So on July 31st, closing arguments were presented at 3:03 p.m. The jury retired to consider the verdict. Question number 7.
This is the one.
What is the jury's decision? Is it A, do they give him the death penalty? Do they say no death penalty? Or is it a hung jury?
This is just for the one case, right?
This is the one,
Okay.
the Johnston case. Do they agree on the death penalty? Do they agree no death penalty? Or is it a hung jury? We're just in the penalty phase. He is guilty. You're both going C,
Oh, no.
Dang.
so it
That's
doesn't
not
matter
good.
what
That is
happens,
not
but
good.
you're both correct.
Oh.
It is a hung
Dang.
jury. Just over 2 hours later at 5:45, the jury came back without being able to reach the agreement about a death penalty. So, congratulations, Alex. You got a victory under your belt tonight.
I think it's my first one. Maybe I don't know. I don't remember.
The show goes back so far.
I've been on so many, guys.
Next month will be a year.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Congrats.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
big.
Guys,
That's
you
huge.
guys need to congratulate Jesse and Greg. That's awesome.
You got a cheer button
Yeah,
for
dude.
almost a year. Right?
Come on,
Oh, here we
man.
go.
Yeah.
Oh,
there we
Solid
go.
round of applause.
Almost a year.
It died out kind of fast.
It was like 2 people.
It was just you and me clapping.
That was great.
That was the idea. So, as a result of the hung jury, a judge gets to decide, and he hands Gillis a sentence of life imprisonment with no parole. February 17th, 2009, Gillis pleads guilty to the first-degree murder of Marilyn Nevels and received a third life sentence. He's still alive. He's never getting out, and possible mental health issues. And that's really the end of it. You cannot find anything like post 2009 on this guy. I think he's just a model prisoner,
He's just chilling.
and you're not going to hear much until he dies, and they'll add that to the end of the Wikipedia or whatever. But I have some clips for you guys.
Yes.
Exciting.
I pulled them from the documentary, so we'll just kind of have this little fun moment. I was gonna try to plug them in, but I don't. I got some.
Cool.
So this one, I believe, so this is when they first get him in, and they're kind of accusing him of some stuff, and they're all pretty short. But here we go. Let's see how well you can hear it.
Do you know why we're talking?
We're talking because you had some tire tracks that possibly came from my car there.
And from those tracks, it appears she was unloaded from that vehicle and thrown into that canal.
She was not unloaded from my vehicle.
So it's the beginning. The detective says like, "Hey, it's your tire tracks." And apparently, when they first bring him in, Sean Gillis, before they even mention the tire tracks, like puts himself at the crime scene, but saying like, "Yeah, I pull off here sometimes to just like, take a break or whatever." And it's like this embankment only like 3 blocks from his house. So I think he's trying to explain why they might see his tire tracks there. If that's what they brought him here for,
This is all in in the time frame of when he gets arrested before he admits to it later that day.
This is the first interview, and I said they like came back to bring him in for an interview before they like brought him in after they got
okay.
the
So
DNA.
this is
before
evidence.
they
like,
arrested
knocked
him?
his door down. and,
Yes,
like, busted.
exactly
Okay.
that. Exactly that.
This is before he knew he was
Right.
He was done for.
So, if I'm not mistaken,
Insight into his twisted mind.
How did this come to be, man? Does the word monster come to mind?
Yes.
yeah. So that's what the detective asks. How'd this come to be, man? And he says, "Does the word monster come to mind?" This one here, I believe, is the objectifier.
Donna had some type of
So this is at the very beginning. He's like describing now his way of killing the sex worker. So this is the detective at first saying like Donna had this contraption on her neck, and so here's
Donna
Sean.
had some type of on her neck or something. What would a
Big nylon tie lock. Demonstration?
Oh,
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
he very femininely demonstrates how he might snap one of those around a woman's neck.
That's pretty
right?
crazy. Yeah.
This one here. So this one here. So as he escalated in his murders, he also escalates in the way he is interacting with the police throughout these interviews. So he went from she was not thrown out of my vehicle to like, this is how I do it. to now he is at this point where they've kind of how they rile him up a little, you know? And he's like saying why he does the murders. He's kind of like giving his mini manifesto. And this is him talking about his mission and what he does with him and his tools, let's say.
Objectification is exactly how I look at it. I call my weapon that sometimes, the objectifier. Because it would turn them from a woman to the object that I would then deal with.
What the fuck?
It is so much more creepy to hear it in their own voice than it is.
He called it the objectifier
Because it turned women from women into the object that he would then
That's
deal with.
Fucked up.
To me, that sounds like he has a hard time dealing with what he's actually doing, and he has to dissociate from it. He can't. It's not something that, like, he seems like he's not a killer, but he has a part of him that wants to kill, and so he has to compartmentalize what's going on inside his head. He has to make them not a person, so that like he said, he can deal with it rather than facing the fact that he has to take the life of another person.
Well, then also there's that classic process versus product, and he just wants him dead as fast as possible, and he's got what he wanted out of it. Was the thing.
The end result.
Yes, the object. So
that is
here's one
rough.
last clip. I can't remember exactly what it is. We'll just listen, and I'm sure we'll find out.
As soon as possible, because it was not the act of killing that he was interested in.
I'm talking about manipulating dead bodies.
It's an interesting term you used. That's exactly the way I looked at it. And would it surprise you that the control of another being's limbs is a part of it?
So creepy.
Yeah, so creepy.
Oh, it is exponentially creepier.
And that's what I'm saying. Each
Yeah,
video,
that's
he
super weird.
starts to look like the first video. He's like sitting with his arms crossed under his chin, and he looks so uncomfortable there. And the next video, he's kind of like a little bit more aggressive towards them. And then by the end, he's like sitting back, smoking a cigarette, like he's got his cup of coffee, like. Yeah, what do you need to know? I objectify him. It's the objectifier. I turn him from women to objects. Like, that's who I am. What do I do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Here I am. What are you going
That's
to
so
do?
weird.
Yeah.
Is
So-
there a lot of footage on this guy?
those were kind
Or
of
those
the
were
highlights,
mostly-
but you can listen to a lot of, I can't really see any like recent interviews or anything. Like I said, after 2009, there's no documentaries or really anything new about him, but, he's a fuckface, and, That's real. All there's to it. Most of who we talk about it is a fuckface.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that I wanted to bring that because it kind of ends kind of meh. So I thought the clips would be fun to spice it up, and you get to kind of see him a little more. And I was surprised at how much
Those are
footage
creepy,
there is
dude.
of him.
Those are super
How creepy he is, and how that until like I said a week and a half ago, I had never heard of him.
Wow.
So, that's Sean Vincent Gillis, co-host Greg. Anything on the way out there?
I read somewhere earlier that the lottery is just a trap for time travelers.
Okay, now you're gonna have to briefly explain it. I think.
It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, lottery is a complete fluke, so obviously a time traveler would come back in time with the correct numbers to win the lottery. And once they go to get their giant check, it's like, boom, hey, we know you traveled time because that was a
every
fluke.
lottery winner is a time traveler, or
Yeah, lottery winners are just time travelers.
Only the ones that pick their own numbers, though. The ones who get the auto numbers, maybe not.
all right.
They're just lucky.
So there you go. That's Greg's takeaway for tonight: is that all lottery winners who chose their numbers are time travelers.
Also, don't eat nipples, don't cut hands off. Generally, just don't kill people.
Wow, Greg. Sometimes you just say no when I ask. So you're very insightful tonight. I appreciate all these.
I'm full of them tonight.
It's because he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna edit that out. So like later, that comment's not gonna make sense.
Alex, JP, anything you guys want to throw out here at the end?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out my social media, guys. Just an update. I got a new job. Last time I checked in with you guys, I got a job at a camera store. That job sucked. But I got a new job. This job's all right. But follow me on Instagram because I'm still taking photos.
Yeah.
I got my first photo project published, so I'm hyped on that. But check it out, Mocha Freeman on Instagram. Hell yeah. Thanks for having me on, dude. It's super fun seeing you guys.
Hell of fun seeing you, dude. And again, let's give him one more. Congratulations, Alex.
Double
Thanks, guys.
time.
Thank you.
on
Thank you.
your victory. JP, anything you want to throw out there here at the end?
Congratulations on your art publishment
Thanks, man.
and your upcoming art show,
Hell yeah.
from what I hear.
Dang.
Yeah, I'm working
That's
on
pretty
it.
I
rad.
hadn't heard of either of those, but we'll discuss them off the air and then promote them back on the air later.
Sick.
I just want to say that I had a great time with Alex and with Jesse, and of course over the internet with Greg. Thanks for
Always.
having me on the show,
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was awesome.
and thanks for the beers too.
Yeah,
thank you, dude.
This last one we
We
had
had a
chocolate
lot
stout. It was
of
delicious.
chocolate stouts tonight.
It was chocolatey.
JP, don't forget to throw your Instagram out there. It's X3 underscore JP's got Stez.
B3's got Stez underscore.
Every time.
No, my shit's synced up, just like Hella Greg.
Yeah.
JP Gentry Industries on all platforms.
Give him a follow, guys.
All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you, co-host Greg, for reaching out across the internet as always. And thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 44 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
44
Out of 1 million, guys.
Pickle.
All right, that was episode 44. Thank you guys so much for sticking in there with us. Sean Gillis was a misunderstood introvert with dark secrets hidden by his penchant for nighttime activities. His wife or girlfriend probably should have caught on at some point, in my personal opinion, but she had a lot going on in her own life, including seizures and obviously working all night every night to support the two of them because Sean couldn't get his shit together. Congratulations goes out to my good friend Alex on his victory tonight. Although it doesn't matter, I'm sure it still felt good. I felt good for you. Yes. Great job, Alex, on your win. If you guys have anything you'd like to add to the episode tonight, anything you'd like to jump in on or let us know about future episodes, comments, questions, anything, you can do it in so many ways. The Facebook is Serial Chillers Podcast. You could also join the Facebook group, which is also just Serial Chillers Podcast. It's a closed group. Wait for acceptance. We got you. The Instagram is at Serial Chillers Podcast. The Twitter is at Chillers Podcast. Email is serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text the show at 1-805-666-2513. Serial Chillers Podcast.threadless.com for all of your merchandise needs. And the Patreon page, of course. Patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast is the place where you can go to give as little as $1 a month to help out the show in any way, shape, or form. We use this money wisely. I swear we're not blowing it. We are using it towards equipment. We are using it towards travel expenses. We are using it towards research, buying books. We're trying to make the show better for you guys, and you guys in turn are doing that for us in giving to the Patreon. We are also going to be doing a drawing on May 1st, so if you're listening to this in time, you still have a couple days. Anybody who gives as little as $1 a month to the Patreon has automatically been entered into a drawing for $100 since we reached the $150 level at the Patreon. So thank you everybody for getting us to that level. That's beyond what I thought we could ever get to, and now I'm optimistic for the future. So thank you guys for being some of the greatest fans there are. You guys are loyal, you guys are amazing, and you tell me when I do a good job. You tell me when I don't, more importantly, and that way we can correct it and make it better. So thank you guys for ruling. We'll keep doing what we're doing if you keep doing what you're doing. That's really the long and short of it. So thanks again to JP. Thanks again to Alex. Thanks again to co-host Greg across the internet. As always, remember, don't talk to strangers.
He's the weird fella.